So in the last video, we saw what the binary operators were, essentially the AND, the OR, the left shift, the right shift operators. We took a look at the decimal, the base 10 system, and we saw how do you represent decimal numbers. And then we also saw the binary numbers in the base 2 system, where we saw how to represent base 2 numbers, binary numbers in as ones and zeros, and we saw that any number could essentially be represented in a binary form. Then we looked at the AND table, we looked at the OR table, we looked at the XOR table, we saw the left shift, we saw the right shift, and then we ended up with an example where we can use binary operators to find out if a number is even or odd. So in this video, I want to go in depth into the left shift and the right shift and more common use cases where developers typically tend to use these type of operators, and when they decide to store numbers in binary form. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have a movie table. So we're going to switch over to Excel, where I have a bunch of movies. Let's say we have Casino Royale, we have A Few Good Men, and My Cousin Vinny. These are some of my favorite movies. I hope you've watched some of them. And we also have a bunch of categories. Okay, we have comedy, action, suspense, thriller, drama, sports, sci-fi, and horror. And typically what we want to do is we want to categorize these movies based on these categories. So if, let's say, Casino Royale is an action and a thriller, then we want to represent that somehow, either in a new table or in a new column, or somehow we want to represent that. And maybe our use case at the end of the road is to define some kind of a recommendation system where you categorize these movies and then you recommend users as to what movies they are most inclined to watch based on categories. Um, and so one of the ways that someone would represent, when you have two primary tables like this, when you have two tables, and you want to represent this, one common way that people represent them is through a many-to-many join table. So in this case, we would have a movie categories table, movie categories, and we would have a movie ID and a category ID. So if, let's say, Casino Royale fit into action and thriller, then I would have the category ID for action would be 1, and the category ID for thriller, which is 3, would show up here, and so on and so forth. So if A Few Good Men is a drama and a thriller, let's say, so then we would have drama is 4 and thriller is 3, so we would have entries of this form, and that would be our ID. And similarly for My Cousin Vinny, the movie ID was 2, and since it's a comedy, we would have a 0 here. And so this is one way of representing a many-to-many relationship, and in which case, if I wanted to figure out or list all the movies that belonged to a particular category, then I could do a join with this table to get the list of categories that someone would be interested in. So if I was looking for, let's say, only action movies, then I would join this table with this table on the condition that the movie ID equals the movie ID, the category ID equals the category ID. And since I was looking for only action movies, I would also say and the categories dot ID is 1. So I'm not going to get too much into the SQL side of it, but essentially that's one way to do it. The other way of doing it, so let's say we didn't want to do this. So this is a normalized form of representing tables, and so let's say we didn't want to do this way. So there's another way we could do it, where we could have, let's say, a comma separated list. So if in the case of Casino Royale, I could say this belongs to action and thriller. So 1, 3 here. A Few Good Men is drama and thriller, so I could have 4, 3. And My Cousin Vinny is comedy, so it has 0, 0 here. And let me just left align this. And so that's one way of representing categories. And so if I wanted to look for a particular movie, then I don't need to do any joins. If I wanted to look for any movies that were action movies, then let's say I just wanted Casino Royale back in this example. Um, so what I would need to do is look through all the movies and then get this column out and then parse this column and look for anything that has a 1 in it. And so that is another way of doing it. So we see two ways, and is there a better way of representing this? Could we use bitwise operator somehow? Because each of those two cases had a problem, right? Like the problem with the first case was we had to join, and joins are expensive. So while doing joins, if I had to, if this was a large table, then I would have to join each movie with the entire category table and with the entire movie categories table, and that becomes expensive. um, and if I had to do all this parsing with this comma separated list, then that would also be unnecessary. So what is the solution? Okay, so we'll go back to the drawing board in some time and then figure out what the best way to represent this is, because we know that these are all numbers, and this is a finite set of numbers, and we know that each one of these can be represented by a binary number. And so could you use bitwise operators somehow? And I'm going to go back to the drawing board now and show you exactly what can be done and why binary operators make sense, and storing these in a binary form somehow to get back your results. So in the previous, in the Excel spreadsheet, we saw Casino Royale. Casino Royale was the name of the movie, let's say, and it was categorized as action and thriller. Okay, and the IDs from the table that we have, action was represented as 1 and thriller was 3. Action was 1 and say thriller was 3. So what if instead of using any parsing such as this, or using another table or what have you, what if we just use binary operators and just ensure that these bits were set? So let's say we had binary numbers like so, and let's say this was comedy, action, suspense, thriller, drama, suspense, action. This was action, this was suspense, this was thriller, this was drama, sports, sci-fi, and horror. Okay, so now if these were my categories and I know that this bit always represents comedy, this bit always represents action, this bit always represents suspense, thriller, drama, and so on. So in this case, if I was able to just set these bits, so I wanted action set and I wanted thriller set, everything else is 0. Okay, so what I end up with is a number, and in this case it is and so this is 2 to the 3, this is 2 to the 2, 2 to the 1, and so on. And so 2 to the 3 is 8, 2 to the 1 is 2, so I would end up with a 10. Okay, and just to simplify that, I'm just gonna write 0, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Okay, so now what I have is this movie can now be represented or categorized as a number 10. Okay, so now in my database I can have 0 as the movie name, as the movie ID. I can have Casino Royale as the movie name, and I can have 10 in the categories. And so I can do the same for the other movies as well. So in this case, A Few Good Men was drama and thriller. Okay, so if it was drama and thriller, then I would have drama and thriller. So that would mean 16 plus 8, 24. So now I can represent A Few Good Men as 24. And again, for My Cousin Vinny, since it's a comedy, I just set that bit, and I have, so this is my ID, movie ID, this is my movie name, and then this is my category. So right off the bat here, I can see that there can be a need for 3 types of operations here. One is, given a couple of categories like action and thriller, I want to figure out 10. So I'm given 1 and 3, I want to figure out 10 and then set that in my database. So that's the first operation. The second operation is, maybe I want to figure out if a particular movie matches comedy. So for instance, is Casino Royale a comedy movie? So I might want to answer that question. Or I might want to retrieve all the movies that match, that are either action or thriller or both. So list movies for categories. Okay, so list movies that I like. So we'll figure out, we'll address these 3 cases, and we'll figure out how to do this, and then we'll look at some code and then figure out how it's done. Okay, and that will probably, I think we're out of time for this video, so we'll do that in the next video.